Hello you mighty fine people and welcome back to the channel. The testing grounds have concluded for over a week now and I hope you all got a chance to play and give your feedback via the survey. I will leave a link to the survey in the video description for those yet to complete it. This video will be a brief review and I suppose a wish list regarding the potential upcoming changes from the TG. The background footage will just be some highlight clips from my time playing the testing grounds. I lost a lot of games in the TG, so forgive me for highlighting the bits that make me look better than I actually am. But without further delay, let's get into it. The counter guard break changes were an absolute blessing. Counter GB leaves you 33 milliseconds or 1 frame positive, meaning you have much more options available to re-engage an opponent. Guard break spam is quite an issue in the live game since your only options become light or zone attack to interrupt, which if your opponent is spamming GB in an attempt to interrupt you, you can bet that they are ready to parry that attempt too. Being that extra frame positive means you can throw a neutral heavy of 800 milliseconds, which will beat out a guard break. With the game going in a very offensive based direction, it's nice to see defensive mechanics get some love that support this philosophy, so the counter guard break changes honestly are perfect and couldn't come to the game sooner. Next we'll talk about Tiandi because I have much more to say about Valkyrie. Tiandi was a bit of a pain to fight in the testing grounds, and there's a lot to like. Dragon Kick is great, as is the follow-up, though the follow-up does feel very weightless if that makes any sense. Fainting Dragon Kick is such a blessing, even with the dodge soft feint removed from it. The palm strike changes were kind of inevitable. I like the bash available from neutral, but if it's an issue at high level play where it's too easy to react to them, then I'm all for the change. It was nice to see that Tiandi got to keep forward's Tiger Dodge as an undodgeable option, so that the palm strike actually mixes up, a lesson likely learned from Orochi's nerfs. The side dragon dodge, however, first of all is absurdly damaging. 25 is insanely high for a dodge attack as safe and easy to land as that one. The removal of the extended iframes was completely inconsequential. The move is feintable and soft feintable into another dodge, and the speed increase not only makes it very hard to punish, and in my case impossible to punish with a guard break, but it also allows the moves to punish other moves very consistently. The Tiger Dodge option can already punish bashes and other attacks well enough. This is not a property that needed to happen to side Dragon Dodge. So what would I change? Well, first of all, I would revert the side Dragon Dodge changes and then lower the damage to around 18 or so. Next, I'd have the forwards Dragon Dodge be active earlier into the dodge to make the uninterruptible stance property usable on the kit. If you don't know, in the testing grounds I think it was about 400 milliseconds into the forwards dodge where you can activate that heavy attack, which essentially made the uninterruptible stance or hyper armor more or less useless on it. Now this one is a bit of a controversial change, but I'd consider it. The Dragon Kick, I would have that cause a large stagger effect instead of a knockdown, but also still allowing it to confirm the new follow-up. A large stagger effect could still ledge opponents and allow for the follow-up to execute on hit. I think this would also alleviate some of the frustration of winding up being kicked down and having to eat several heavies from the opponent's team. I wouldn't lose any sleep over it, but I think it's worth the consideration. Aside from that, I quite like how Tiandi turned out, even if personally I don't enjoy the heroes as much as I do others. Now for Valkyrie. I was over the moon to see Valkyrie get a rework, as she's one of my favourite heroes in the game. But I'll say it now, she simply did not get enough. Valkyrie got quite an experimental rework with a new mix-up type, so props there, it's nice to see more creative approaches to reworks. The shield tackle mix is quite fun to play around. It loses to a guard break, which is quite a bold read for your opponent to make, but it felt surprisingly effective to use. The follow-up dealt 20 damage, which was a little high, so a couple of points off that wouldn't hurt. The animation is a little jarring, if only because it's coming from someone holding a spear, but given how much the community has complained about reused animations, I'm not making this a sticking point, only just a nitpick. Hunter's Rush, or the sprint attack chaining, is nice, but honestly doesn't do anything to help that move, since it's not even that good for clearing the mid lane, and certainly not good as an engagement tool. Dodge attacks being enhanced is a nice quality of life buff that Valkyrie needs as a 3-hit chain hero. The zone attack speed increase and shield tackle implementation is very welcome. Her zone felt very usable in all kinds of fights and excellent at clearing mid. Of course, the spear sweep speed increase was obviously warranted and very welcome. I especially enjoy it being possible from a throw now, just like Shaman's Bash, which adds some extra distance when going for an environmental kill. And the removal of 400 milliseconds top lights in chain is just an unacceptable nerf and removes incentive to use the chain lights. A minor downside to be considered, which I think can be overcome with practice, was how cumbersome shield tackle felt to use with default bindings on a controller, I can't speak for PC users because I've always used the default controls. Being able to feint and dodge out of the shield tackle is a necessary part of the rework, and one I adore, but it did feel very uncomfortable to do consistently. I'm sure the dev team can find some way to fix it if it becomes a priority, but I imagine a lot of players use the default bindings and had this same issue. Overall, it's probably more of a skill issue that practice can overcome. So alongside a Valkyrie face reveal, what would I like to see in a rework? First of all, her zone attack. I love the speed increase, but I think this needs to chain into finisher. It's become quite useful and there needs to be a reason to follow through with the second hit. It would be nice if the second hit got an additional property, but having it chain feels like a natural fit for the move having increased viability. Hunter's Rush or the sprint attack personally I think is too weak. Allowing it to chain is a nice quality of life improvement, but the real issue is its speed and travel distance. Charge into the mid lane with this attack and then do it with Kensei's and you'll see exactly what I mean. Now for the meat of it, light attacks. I would have all second chain lights and the finisher top light before 100 milliseconds. The game needs more of these attacks, particularly on heroes with 3 hit chains with strong finisher pressure, which is clearly the intent with Valkyrie. The finisher side lights can displace, so I'm fine with them remaining 500 milliseconds given their potential for further damage output. With this in mind, I'd have shoulder pin count as a second chain hit, allowing it to chain into the finisher. I was disappointed that shoulder pin didn't get any attention in the rework. The light speed nerf actually removed the top light confirm it has situationally in the live game. Letting shoulder pin chain into finisher would allow for sweep as an option, or the heavy shield tackle mix-up, but still allow players to take that confirmed damage if they prefer. Player options should always be considered here. And finally, and probably more controversially, undodgeable heavy finishers. Now the whole blue-orange mix-up feels like it's been done to death, but it does feel like there's a need for it in Valkyrie's case. Her kit is very susceptible to dodge attacks, and there's a lot of stronger heroes running around with dodge options in abundance. I'd be happy with her damage being toned down a little on finisher heavies to accommodate a more fluid and aggressive Valkyrie, with good mix-up potential. And she has got a lot of potential to become one of the most fun heroes to play, and I'd like to see her get there. Anyhow, I think I've said all I need to. I tried to speed through this as quick as possible, so please let me know in the comments what you think of the recent testing grounds. Who was more fun to play? Who was stronger? How did you find the counter guard break changes, etc.? I'd love to have a discussion about it. So with all that, thank you so much for watching the video. Please let me know what you would like to see on the channel. I'm really trying to allocate as much time as I can to it and would love to make the channel grow. Thanks again, and I'll see you in the next one. Ciao for now.